the divide. We've got about T minus 1 minute and counting.
Thank you for your attention.
Boom.
I look forward to speaking with you again.
Here we go.
This is Chief of the Operations Manager here at WRFZ 106.3FM.
See, can you guys see good? All right. Fantastic. Let's make this happen.
For some years now, since we've been on the air, we're going to be moving some shows.
30 seconds.
We're going to be moving some shows. They're going to be going away completely. So we're going to be revamping things. We're going to be adding more music to our morning lineup. Shows, music to our lineup too as well. So you're going to want to stick around and see all the great changes that are coming up here in the year 2024 at WRFZ. And we do wish everybody out there listening a happy 2024. Happy New Year, everybody, from WRFZ 106.3FM.
30 seconds.
The opinions on this program do not necessarily reflect those of Rochester Free Radio, its underwriters, and supporters.
All right. Welcome, you guys. You're listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. And you're listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. I am here. We are in the house, and we're about to talk about a whole bunch of great, good stuff. I mean, I guess that depends on what you consider to be great and what you consider to be good, right? Because there's so much stuff that's going on in our nation and our country right now that we need to talk about that's very, very important, that continues to be, well, I mean, I guess what would you call it? Bastardized or talked about in a poor or wrong fashion or something like that. Realistically, one of the biggest things that we've got going on right now is we've got a lot of people who are not taking action and participating in their government locally, on the local level. And that's something that's very, very important. So we've got all of these different issues that are going on in our city, our state, our county, and across the world, really, right? But the way that we actually make a difference is we have to participate in government. It doesn't matter what party you are. It doesn't matter what do they say? It doesn't matter what flavor you are, you know? It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is that you get active, and you get active now. Because the only way for us to actually make a difference in society as a group of people and individuals that actually care is to actually go and get active ourselves. What do they say? If not us, then who? If not now, then when? And that's a very, very big thing that we need to talk about today. Do you know who your local representative is? Do you know who your city council or town council person is? Do you know your mayor? Do they know you? That you should know them. Do you know your state assemblyman or state senator? You should know them. You know, I don't necessarily expect you to have a first name basis, one-on-one relationship with the governor of your state, but on the local level, it's where it counts. And that's where we have to start pushing to make the difference. Right now, we're seeing where I live in Rochester, New York, in Monroe County, and where we are, we've seen all types of crime just go insane. Just yesterday, there was a armed carjacking in a really nice ritzy neighborhood in our state. And that's in the Harvard area, the Harvard Street area in our neighborhood. Really nice, very more what you would call posh type of a neighborhood, upper class, you know. Armed robbery, broad daylight, carjacking. Then there was another carjacking, armed carjacking over on the northeast side, armed carjacking. Then there were other armed carjackings other places. People are getting mugged in the nicer areas, not far from the Harvard area on Park Ave. You know, these are things that have become far too common an occurrence that people continuously don't actually address. And it's something that we need to address with our local elected officials. But the first thing in order to do that we must understand is we must understand what each position actually does. Now, I'm not going to go into that in detail today because I want to talk about some other stuff, but I do want to encourage you to go find out who is in charge of what and what their position actually entails. Because you've got city council or town council, the mayor, you got the state assembly, the county ledge, and stuff like that. And a lot of people go out and they complain to the wrong people about the wrong stuff. And then we see that nothing ever gets done, so people get fed up and then they decide that they don't want to vote. But you've got to vote. You've got to vote. Well, you don't got to vote, right? And I guess technically not voting is kind of voting, but you should be registered to vote. Otherwise, you're not doing anybody any service, and you're not even expressing your right not to vote by not voting because you're not even registered to vote. Make sure you go register to vote. But if you're in the Rochester area and you want to be a a election inspector, they are looking for people to be election inspectors, especially Republicans and conservatives, because they just don't have enough people that are willing to do that anymore. Because a lot of people that used to do it have either moved out of the state or they're getting older and stuff like that, or people just don't want to do it. They've fallen off. So definitely reach out to the Monroe County Board of Elections if you live in Monroe County or the city of Rochester, where I live. If you live in another county, reach out to your local county board of elections and wherever you are in the country, you know. So let's talk about some of the crazy things. We just came off of having the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl was last night, and in the house was Taylor Swift with her boyfriend Travis Kelce, or whatever his name is. I just want to let you guys know I do not watch football like that, and I do not listen to Taylor Swift. Okay, she just doesn't write songs that I like. Like her songs are the lyrics. If you listen to the lyrics, they're like no. However, I do like Lana Del Rey. She is really cool, even though all of her songs are like really sad and depressing. Anyway, but they sound good, right? So Taylor Swift was out there, and everybody was distracted a lot by what she had going on. And then you had Ice Spice in the booth with her. If you guys aren't familiar with her, I think she's some sort of a rapper, if that's what you can call what she does. I mean, I don't even know. It's a lot of salacious whoremongering activity that Ice Spice does. Okay, so it's bad. So, and she's up there throwing up satanic and demonic symbols right there with Taylor Swift, and the cameras all on them and everything. And this is just going to show how Satanism and Luciferianism and all of this ridiculous, horrible, negative stuff pushing our country in a very bad direction is starting to be more normalized, like it's okay. And people are supposed to just go for this type of stuff and these types of activities, which are not okay at all. And we really need to understand what's going on in our society and how it's impacting us on a individual basis. We see we're talking about crime. We see the continued erosion of morals and values in our society. And that's a very serious thing. But you have to ask yourself, where do these morals and values come from that we base our stuff off of? And most of those things actually come from, well, religion. Largely in America, if you're in America, that comes from Christianity. Our nation was founded on Christian principles. That's a very, very serious thing that's very intrinsically linked to our nation, and it's indisputable. But people like to try to say, oh, well, we should separate church and state. Well, that's a lie. There's no thing anywhere that actually says that. And then the thing that they try to quote to try to say that, oh, well, this says that, it doesn't. And it's not even an actual bill or a document or anything like that. It's actually comes from the idea from a letter. But we're not going to jump into that too deep. I just want to talk about the religious morals and values portion that is lacking. Because if you don't get those morals and values from religion, where do you get them from? Are they cultural and community values? Where do they come from so that you can actually say, hey, these are what the morals and values are that I have. Here's what we've got going on. Here's what I believe, and here are my principles. Well, then you get that stuff comes from things like the educational system. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have very much faith in the educational system that we have currently. It's really trash terrible. It is really, really bad. And that's not me being mean, that's me being nice and generous. Like I said, I live in Rochester, New York, in Monroe County, in the highest funded school district in the nation, but the lowest proficiency grades in the country. Well, excuse me. We're the second to highest as far as we pay per capita per student, but we're also the second to lowest on the level of proficiency. They just push people through and through and through and through. And then when they get out into society, because they don't have the skills to be a productive member of society, because they can't read, they're not able to write, and they're not able to do any basic math, then what do you think they do? They go and they turn to a life of crime. But because they don't have any basis of morals and values, then they don't know anything else but, oh, it's okay. It's okay. You know, and people will say, well, crime is because people are impoverished and stuff like that. But you look at many other nations across the world that have much higher poverty rates and much more severe poverty. But they don't remotely have the crime rates that you see in blue urbanized areas. Now you'll say, well, Marcus, why do you say blue urbanized areas? Because specifically, if you look at the number of the most criminal activity as far as violent crimes and stuff like that and personal property crimes, those are all happening in blue cities. And that's something that's worth talking about. I had somebody else the other day say, well, it's bad in Texas too, or it's bad in, where did they say, Georgia too. Yeah, see, but those are only in blue cities, in Democrat-run cities in those areas. The rest of the countries are, the rest of the states are relatively safe comparatively, or I should say less crime. And that's something that we need to understand, because that goes back to policies. This goes back to you understanding who's working for you, allegedly, and what they're supposed to do and what policies they're implementing. These are very important things that we need to be able to talk about, and we need to be able to talk about them openly. You can't say, oh, well, you're a Democrat, so I don't like you and I don't want to talk to you. No, that doesn't work. You can't say, oh, you're a Republican, so I don't like you, so we're not going to be able to talk. No, you don't say that either. We're all Americans. And right now, what we need to be able to unify on is the fact that we're Americans. However, that is slowly being stripped from us because they don't want you to have a group collective identity so that you know who we as a group of individuals, we as a nation actually are. And that is a terrible, terrible bastardization of our nation. It's a whole bunch of people running around that are American citizens that hate their own country. How does that happen? Well, I'll tell you, largely because it's taught in the institutions. It's perpetrated on the media. And they get away with this like it's okay. They are legitimately preaching on mainstream media every day to hate the people that are your same countrymen. Why would you do that? I mean, I don't have to agree with you. We don't even have to like each other. But you should hate your own countrymen? That's wrong. Then we get people like Kathy, and she gets on the, excuse my language, the high priestess, Governor Kathy of New York State, gets on the TV and says that she's ordering the, and I laugh saying it because she has no such authority, but she's ordering the Department of Homeland Security to work to create a curriculum to make it so that they re-educate children about what it is that they're not supposed to, how can I say it? Let me see how I can say it, because it's really crazy. Basically, long story short, she's saying that she's going to re-educate the children on not being hateful and conspiracy theories and a couple of other things. It was just very, very concerning what she was saying, because basically she's saying that she's going to reprogram your children. So it doesn't matter whether you like what she's doing or not. It doesn't matter whether you agree with what she's doing or not. she's going to teach your children to think the way that she wants them to think. And when the government is taking control of your children and what they think, you need to start wondering and thinking, should your children be in a government-funded school? Now, I like the concept of general public education, but the question is what they're teaching in public institutes, where are these teachers coming from? And then you look at the fact that they're coming from largely liberal institutes with liberal, and I'm sorry, you guys out there that are traditional liberals, right? Because liberal doesn't even encompass what today's people are, because they're not liberal anymore. They're uber socialists, right? Like they're like the way far left. They're so far left. They're national socialists, right? They're so far left. They're Nazis. This is a fact. Like I'm not mincing words here today. This is a fact. Okay, they'll say, oh well, the people on the right are Nazis. That's, you know nothing about the National Socialist Workers Party. The Nazis were leftists, you know, collectivists. And it's a very serious problem, but you can't talk about them. You can't talk about them, you can't talk about the history thereof. And it's funny how they scrubbed all of the videos of all of the speeches offline, so you can't even listen to those. Because if you did listen to them, you would realize that a lot of these politicians, largely people like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and people like that, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. Well, Mitch McConnell has no spirit, so you can't include him. But people like that are taking words and plays right out of the Nazi handbook, right out of Goebbels' book. I was listening to, I think it was, who was it? Michelle Obama was doing some interview the other day, and I'm like, man, that's exactly like the stuff that they used to say in the Third Reich under the Nazis. But can we have that conversation? No. But they'll throw around the word Nazi all the time, but they won't actually teach you what the whole concept of the way that they implemented what they did into regular society. It's so disgusting, it makes me want to spit. It's terrible. It's really terrible. And it's honestly not bueno, okay? Not even a little bit. Because what's happened in our nation is nobody in this country should be even conceptually like the Nazis, but we don't know anything about them anymore because all of the people that lived through it are largely dead, so they tell you whatever they want you to believe because all you know is Nazis bad. And because they were bad, they just want to pin that blame on somebody else and say, oh, they're like them, but you don't know if they are or not because you don't know anything about them. But meanwhile, the same people that are calling other people Nazis are out there talking about crazy stuff like eugenics and like breeding programs and stuff like that, and like quelling the population and depopulation and stuff like that, and only certain people should be able to have children. Like, that's straight out of the Nazis' playbook. They're out there telling you that you should get rid of your elderly and your lame, the people with disabilities and stuff like that. That's straight out of the Nazi playbook. And you ask, who is pushing these policies? Unfortunately, largely, right now, they're coming from the Democrat Party. And people need to be aware of that. But people are so caught up on what they're told on the media and stuff right now that they're not able to think for themselves. Again, and this is because they're dividing your focus and they're taking you out of what you are, which is being an American, and they don't want you to think about being American. They don't want you to be American. They don't want you to be proud to be American. It's so sad. It's so sad. And it's to the disadvantage of the general populace in our nation. They've got you fighting against your same person that lives in your same neighborhood because they are a member of a different party. That sounds insane. We're all Americans. I don't have to agree with you. Okay? But you've got people on the news talking about, oh, and if you remember, right? Now, if we talked about the shots where they were forcing people to be fired if they didn't get the shots or not, where they were making it so people couldn't come out in public without showing their ID. That's nothing but something straight out of the Nazi playbook. Like, can we talk about that? Like, that's dangerous. And now they're pushing for a social credit score, okay, which basically ties your finances, your regular credit score, and where you can actually operate in daily life to one specific identification, one specific identifiable number, so that you'll have that and you'll go through life with that. And if you jaywalk across the street, that'll be a demerit on your social credit score. This stuff is already happening in China. China's basically the archetype for what we're experiencing here. We need to be paying attention. But everybody's got us so distracted with Donald Trump or Joe Biden that we don't even see the crimes that are being committed against humanity right here in America to the American citizens. Okay? I don't have time for illegal aliens when you've got the American people that are suffering right here. When you've got laws that are being implemented to make it more difficult for you to be able to grow your own food on your own property at your own house. When you've got people in the media saying growing your own garden at your own house creates 4 times the amount of CO2. How is that possible? How is that even, what metrics or grading system are you even reading that on? That doesn't make any sense. Plants take carbon out of the environment. How are you possibly producing more carbon? That doesn't make any sense. That defies logic and reason. But we can't openly have these conversations because, again, it's being pushed out in that manner. They don't want you to be able to provide for yourself. Okay? They don't want you to be able to live separately from the government. They do want to increase your taxes. This is a very, very serious situation that we are starting to live through right now. And you wonder why I was talking about the demonic stuff that was going on at the Super Bowl. And if you've been paying attention the last couple of years, they've been doing some real demonic stuff. And it's not even like it's hidden. It's very out in the open now. That's a corruption of the morals and values, which are uniting factors in America's culture. They are slowly stripping our culture away, bit by bit, and more by more, faster and faster every single day. And it is a very, very serious thing, and people need to wake up. People need to wake up. It's that simple. But in order to wake up, you really got to understand that the people that are at the top of the pyramid in power, those people really do not care about you. So what you've got to do is you've got to focus local, and you've got to focus on your neighborhood and your community, and what can you do to get more active in local politics, to change the laws on the local level, to put people in office that are going to be good and are going to be able to push for positive things. Now, I was on the Democrats for a little while. Don't think that I forgot about the Republicans, because a lot of the Republicans, again, have lost some of their scruples, right? Like, there are people in the Republican Party that are open card-carrying members of other nations. I don't think that you should, if you're in, and I'm not talking about like somebody that's on a regular committee or something like that. I'm talking about people that are in Congress and stuff like that, or are in state office and stuff like that. You shouldn't be able to have dual citizenship and then represent the American people, because you'll never just represent the interests of the American people. We saw this whole incident with Ilhan Omar the other day, where she went back to Somalia and she was like, yeah, I'm in America representing your best interests, and I'm working to bring money from America back to Somalia because my priority is Somalia. Are you serious, bro? Aren't you supposed to be out here representing, where is she from? Michigan, Minnesota, wherever the heck she's from. Excuse my language. You know? I mean, this is wrong. These are the people that we have in office right now. And we have to make sure that if we've got people that are supposed to be representing us, that they're actually representing us. That's a very, very serious thing. And not everybody is representing us. We need people that are going to be in government, that are going to prioritize the American people. Period, point blank. Nobody else is more important than the American people. Oh, Marcus, how could you say that nobody's more important than the American people? Because I live in America. I don't live in somewhere else. I don't live in the Congo. I'm not from Venezuela. Do I look like I'm from Malaysia? I'm not from any of those countries. I live in America. We live in America. I know other countries are struggling, but we're struggling right here at home. We've got an oppressive autocratic regime that's in office right now that's trying to not only strip powers away from the people, but they're also trying to enshrine more powers into the hands of the political elites now more than ever. And it doesn't matter what side you're on, left or right or whatever, you should not want the government to have more power and control over your everyday life. Because the left is screaming, oh, the government's bad, they hate you. And the right is screaming, oh, the government is bad, they've got too much government overreach without any oversight, and they're doing too much. Ostensibly, you're saying the same thing on both sides. So if both of us understand that the government ain't no good, why would you be wanting to give the government more power? Can we actually talk about that? We need to be talking about that. We need to return the rights to the people. That's what America is based on. America is based on local home rule. The federal government isn't supposed to be running everything. The state government isn't supposed to be running everything. We have to return to being able to govern ourselves. Self-governance is very important. But too many people have given up too much, what did I say? Anybody who is willing to give up some security temporarily, anybody that's willing to give up liberty or freedoms for temporary security deserves neither security nor liberty. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's a Franklin quote, Ben Franklin quote. But it's very real and it's very serious. People are just abdicating their rights too much to the government right now. And the people that are in the government largely seem to have their own best interests at heart. And again, you wonder where this comes from, and this comes from the erosions of morals and values in our society. Most people today just care about what's in their pocket. How's the commercial go? What's in your wallet? You know, and this is really, really, really what it is and where we are. And it's not okay. And that's why they're trying to get you to turn away from the Lord. That's why they're trying to get you to turn away from Christianity. And I don't know if you saw it last night, but yesterday, Joel Osteen's church had a shooting at his church. We don't know the full extent of what the intention was or whatever the case is, but we've seen a rise in criminal terrorist activity and anti-Christian hate against Christians. But there are so many Christians in this country and nobody says boo. We've got so many elected officials that claim that they're Christian or claim that they're Catholic and nobody says boo. Nobody bats an eye. Nobody says anything to stick up for Christians. Why are you refusing to stick up for Christians when you know that Christians are being persecuted in America? Then you had Christopher Wray, the former director of the FBI, go and testify before Congress talking about, well, there's most likely going to be terrorist attacks on America because we've let in all these illegal aliens. But here's the deal. Another thing that he said is that we have to be careful about anti-Christian hate and Christianophobia and the people starting to attack churches and stuff like that, because as we let in more people that are from foreign places, that are like very hard up Muslim or hard up Chinese CCP type of people, they will attack believers. They will attack the places in which they actually go and worship. And we've seen that happen more and more in America every single year for the last couple of years. But it's always swept under the rug, it's pushed under the rug. We saw that transgender girl shoot up that Christian school and nobody said boo. Nobody said nothing. Where's the anti-Christian hate? Where are all the people standing up against anti-Christian hate? I see everybody get out here about this anti-Semitism, but where are the people to stand up against anti-Christian hate? So many Christians can stand up against anti-Semitism, but where are the Christians standing up against anti-Christian hate? Where are the Jews standing up against anti-Christian hate? Can somebody tell me that? Where are they? We're standing up for them. Where are they to stand up for us? And I may seem like I feel some type of way about what's going on, but let me tell you this. If Christians are willing to stand up so firmly for Jews when there is anti-Semitism, how come those same Christians won't stand up for Christians when Christians are under attack? They won't stand up against Christian hate. They won't stand up against Christianophobia. Why isn't that a thing? And where are the Jews helping us on that mark? See, now, this is an important thing. I really applaud, it makes me want to spit. I really applaud the Jewish faith because they stick together hard. They stick together hard. And being that that's where Christianity comes from, we should be looking to them as an example of how to stick together. They stick together very hard. Where are we sticking together? Like that, like them. They're showing us the example of how to stick together. We should be taking that example. But we're not. You saw the ad for the what was it? He got us ad, or he gets us ad on the Super Bowl. Listen, let me tell you, that's 2 seconds from being let me make sure I choose my words. Hypocrisy, right? Like, hypocrisy is a word, but I really want to say heresy, right? It doesn't quite reach the level of apostasy or anything like that, but it's definitely borderline heresy because it's definitely mocking Christianity. And everybody's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. No, they're softening Christianity. They're trying to, we see all of these things, all of these fake churches that run around with these fake pastors preaching all of these things that go against the gospel, okay, that go against scripture. And they preach all of these things like it's normal, it's okay, and now it's being normalized every day in society. Like we talked about the media normalizing things that are not normal. It's not okay. And again, I'll state it again, this is the same playbook that we saw from the Nazis in Germany. It's the exact same playbook. Bastardizing religion. Bastardizing Christianity. Okay? And this is a serious, serious issue. And we need to have this conversation about it. But people don't want to have that conversation about it. Because that would be too much like right. That would be too much like serious. It might offend somebody. Somebody might have some feelings. Perish the thought that a human being has some feelings about something that are adverse. Oh my goodness. You know, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. One of the biggest things that we have that's facing us as an issue right now that we continue to neglect is the fact that as a Christian founded nation, a nation founded on Christian principles, we have gone so far away from the mark that it's ridiculous. Nobody would ever let them make a mockery of Muhammad or make a mockery of Islam like they make a mockery of Christianity. Nobody would let them make a mockery of Judaism like they make a mockery of Christianity. And Christians just sit idly by and let it happen. I don't understand it. I don't get it. We need to take a page out of the book from the Jewish people and unite and actually push back against the hate that's being projected against us. But, you know, hey, I mean, that would be like right? So, man, we about to really go in a second right here. But first, I'd like to remind you that you are listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. And I'm Marcus C. Williams. So thank you for listening to The Divide with me. And let's jump back into it, right? We saw Joel Osteen's place get shot up last night. Where is the news coverage on that? Did you see that on the news? Maybe a split second on the news you saw that, right? But again, why? Because it's Christian. Had that been a synagogue, it'd have been all on the news for the next 8 weeks. We would have got no rest from that. Again, they've got unity about their issues in their community, so they push what's good for their community. As far as Christians and community, we do not have that. We need that. But getting back to the topic of America and her founding and the principles of Christianity and that ridiculous advertisement yesterday. I know people are going to be like, oh, that advertisement was good. It was nice. No, it was softening Christianity. It was bastardizing Christianity. It was borderline mocking Christianity. Okay? It's just that people just don't want to see it, and they want to make excuses because they want things to seem more worldly. The church is not supposed to look like the world. The church is supposed to look like the church. Okay? It's very, very clear. And anybody that says otherwise does not read Scripture. And I'm not here to beat the Bible against somebody's head or anything or say that I'm so perfect and so holy. But I do my dangest to actually live by the principles that I live by and actually express those in my engagements and interactions with everybody that I come across. It's very, very, very important that we stop letting them make a mockery of Christianity. Because it's not just Christianity that they're making a mockery of. They're making a mockery of our nation. Because everybody sees us as a Christian nation. They're like, oh, well, Marcus, we don't have a national religion. Da, 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 da. It does not matter. Perception means everything. Perception means everything. Said it again for massive impact. Okay? Perception means everything. Other countries see us as a largely Christian nation. So they send other people over here who are not Christian to try to dilute the Christianity in our nation. They make a mockery of us on the TV. They make a mockery of us in the news. They make a mockery of us in the music industry. And it goes on and on and on and on. Now everybody's like, oh, well, that's just an attack on Christians. Well, it's not just an attack on Christians because we already talked about how it's actually the principles that we're founded on in our nation. So they've taken God out of the schools. They've taken the Ten Commandments out of the schools and out of the court systems and stuff like that. And then people are wondering why people are behaving the way that they are, as if they don't have any morals and values. Well, guess what? They don't. Because they have weakened the church in America. And people have sat there and let them do this. And again, Christians, unlike Jews, are not uniting together to stand up for our religion. And I don't understand. Again, the Jews were the forerunners for Christianity. They are showing us exactly how to stand together and how to stick up for each other. But we as Christians seem not to get that. Now, the scariest part is, when it comes to morals and values and the eroding of those in society, we look at all the violence and crime, and I mentioned some of it earlier. The other day we saw a 14-year-old girl was raped in her, well, let me rephrase that, right? Because that's not what happened. She was forced to perform sexual acts in her house, which they did not say exactly what they were, but then they made sure to make the distinction that she was forced to a second location in which she was raped at that location. So, I mean, what type of morals and values are out there that's okay? Now, the person that did this crime was out on parole for an illegal firearm from a couple years ago, but they were already a registered sex offender. Okay? This is terrible. This goes back to policies. This goes back to the people that are in office that are making the policies. not only do we see that that is a very serious impact, let me point out there also that most of these people that are missing aren't really missing people, okay? They're either being sex trafficked or organ harvested, okay? But we can't talk about that, okay? We can't talk about that, not even a little bit. We can't talk about how most of the sexual assaults go unreported either. That's something we don't want to have a conversation about, okay? But they're on the increase, especially with, that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother show I'm about to get into. Let's not do that right yet. So, we need to focus on the morals and values because morals and values influence policy. A lot of the morals and values right now, as we were talking previously, are coming from liberal institutions of higher education, so-called. These higher education institutions are leading people astray and promoting values that are so-called socialist, or as they want to say, social, emotional, empathetic, or whatever the case is. So soft, right? Soft feelings is what's being promoted now. That's not what we need. Our country has become too weak. Our people have become too weak. I love my country. I love my people. I want us to be strong. I want us to be able to stand against the enemies that are at our border and inside our house right now. We've got all these illegal aliens from China, from all of these Muslim nations that hate us because we blew up their country. Can you blame them? We blew up their country. Just so happens we have a tendency of blowing up countries where there's oil. Just so happens those countries that tend to have oil in the Middle East are Muslim countries. But if they're over here in South America, they tend to be Spanish. So you got all these Spanish people, i.e. Venezuela and other countries, okay, that are coming up here that don't like us. You got all these people from the Middle East that are coming over here that don't like us. And you got the Chinese that didn't never like us. And you say, oh, well, Marcus, what do you say that? Because China, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party that runs China, has been preaching against America forever. Okay, they don't like us. They hate us. These other countries, the countries that we blew up, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, and a dozen other ones over there, they mad. They big mad. You think that the Venezuela and the other people, we collapsed their governments, overthrew their Nicaragua, that these people are happy with us? After the stuff that we've done as a nation to them? Not you or me per se as individual citizens, but we have to recognize that just because people want to say, oh, well, America's so sweet, America's so nice, or whatever, or we've changed, or whatever the case is, people don't forget stuff like that. That stuff lasts generations upon generations. Those people didn't forget that. Look at what we did to Noriega. What's that, 1 generation ago? Didn't nobody forget that? Okay, look, how many governments we toppled in South America? Didn't nobody forget that? How many partnerships does China or Hezbollah have in Central and South America? Yeah, I said Hezbollah. Hezbollah's down there too. And these are the people that are encouraging these people to come through our southern border, which don't even get me started on that because we've also got the crisis at the northern border, right? Something like 200,000 people in the last year have come through the northern border that are illegal that we know about, which goes to the millions that have come through the southern border. But can we talk about these things? Largely also, if you guys are listening, those people that are coming through the northern border are coming through New York, New Hampshire, Vermont area. So they're coming here. They're right in our backyard. They're right here now. Then our governments decide that they want to pay to help house them and give them all types of free money and stuff like that. When people are out here complaining that SNAP isn't giving them enough benefits, when people are complaining that they need more housing resources and stuff like that, which really gets me to the point of the day, which is our monetary system, our monetary policy of continuing to say, oh, well, we need to increase inflation, right? We don't need inflation, we need deflation, okay? We need the value of our money to be worth more, not worth less. And they'll say, oh, well, inflation is good because it helps with trade and stuff like that. No, it doesn't. Who does it help? Not us. Because you go to the store right now, you go try to buy something, it's $1 billion. You go to McDonald's, you're spending $20 for one meal. It's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous, and they play in your face. The Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, okay, Jerome Powell of the Federal Reserve, they play in your face and they tell you that all of these things are okay. In the meantime, they're increasing your interest rates, your mortgage rates. Housing costs are going up, food costs are going up, which goes into the terrible food policy on the state and on the federal government level. And this is why it's important for you to know who's controlling what laws. The terrible food policy and what they're doing to our farmers in this country is absolutely atrocious. They're putting different, there's this one guy that I follow online. What's his name? I think it's the Shy Farmer Kid or whatever the case is. So I've been following him for some years because I like farming. I like to eat. Food is important to me. You know what I'm saying? So I've been following him for some years, and he's been talking about over the years of how he's had to change what he grows because of where the government is putting money and how much it costs to grow stuff because of the different regulations that they're putting in for the fertilizer and the treatments that can be used and the stuff that has to be done, but also what the government is subsidizing and what they're not subsidizing, or the prices that they're putting into control as far as artificially keeping prices down or artificially increasing prices. Okay, this is something that's very serious. It needs to be talked about. The price of tractors and farm equipment is through the roof, astronomical. The cost of fertilizer, astronomical. The cost of irrigation systems and everything else that you need to run farms and stuff, astronomical. And you wonder why your food prices are going up, which doesn't even talk about what's going on with the with the supply chain in America. And don't even get me started on the international supply chain, because it's even more bonkers when we start talking about that. So when we start talking about the international supply chain, we start talking about really how much our dollar is worth as it goes across the world. Now, when we start talking about that, our dollar is one of the most powerful currencies in the world because it's one of the world reserve currencies that a large amount of oil is transferred in. So you'll say, Marcus, well, why is oil so important? Because oil runs the world, okay? We've got these people over here that call themselves greenies, which they try to masquerade as environmentalists, and most of them are not environmental conservationists, which is something completely different. So I call them greenies, okay? Because they don't understand, they don't have a conceptualization of what's going on. They've only know what they've been fed. So they don't understand that almost everything that if you are listening to this, just look around. Just look around you. How much of the stuff is plastic that is by you? How much of the stuff is some sort of manufactured material? Almost everything near you right now, I can guarantee you, is largely made from oil. That medicine that you're taking, also made from oil and oil byproducts. Okay? And this is very, very serious. But we don't talk about these things. So oil is basically the lifeblood of the international economy, and it's traded in US dollars for the most part. But now, because we wanted to put sanctions on Russia and sanctions on China, being one of the largest oil users and oil consumers in the world, they're like, well, we'll just go around and we'll just use our own currencies to trade in instead of using the American currency, since you want to put sanctions on us, thereby devaluing our dollar and devaluing the power of our dollar, not just the purchasing power. So it was a bad move. Now they've got an alliance, they call it BRICS. You know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and I think it's 16 other countries now that are part of that now. And they're creating a completely parallel economic system to trade in instead of using the American dollar. But can we talk about that? When in America they used FinCEN which is the, oh my goodness, what does it stand for? Federal Investigation, Financial Investigation, I don't remember what it stands for. Go look it up. FinCEN. Those are the people who basically investigate money crimes. Generally, you see stuff like that in white-collar crimes or in insider trading and stock stuff like that. FinCEN. But they use that against the American people sending stuff out to different banks and stuff like that, saying, oh, well, you should mark up this word. If they are searching for Bibles, if they're searching for Christian stuff, if they're searching for stuff like this or that, you should mark them up and send their information to us so that we can keep a track and a log of what they're buying and purchasing. How is that a thing? How is that a thing? And this is the United States of America. Is America doing that against its own people? What is going on? And again, it goes back to policy and the bureaucrats and the people in office that allow these things to go on, that we need to know who's in charge of what so that we can actually hold them accountable. That's wrong. On a positive note, we've got the farmers over in Europe have been protesting for some time, especially in France and the Netherlands and stuff like that. And it's some of these protests are really, really huge. We're talking about tens of thousands of people, okay? Hundreds of thousands of individuals, tens of thousands of vehicles and stuff. And they're protesting the harsh regulations and guidelines that they're putting on farmers over there. And they've won some victories to stop allegedly. I don't know. I haven't seen them put it on paper yet. I'm waiting for that. But they've largely made it so that the European Union won't impose the actual harsh, what would you say, quelling of farms, because I'm not able to think of a better word. Quelling of farms, ridding of farms, erasure of farms over there, because they're saying that, oh, farms produce so much CO2 that they're a problem. That they're a problem. But when you plant plants, the plants take the CO2 out of the air, but the plants need the CO2 to breathe, and we've gone through massive reforestation over the last couple of decades, which has hastened over the last 10 years. So if you say that you want to cut down on carbon dioxide in the air, but you also want the plants to grow, how does that line up? That doesn't line up. That doesn't make sense. The more carbon, the more plants. That's how nature works. Okay, but again, conversations we're not able to have. But bringing it back stateside and talking about trade and stuff like that, farm trade and selling of farm and agricultural goods is a very large part of the international market. And we largely in America don't buy our own products in America. We ship them overseas. So if they're trading in another currency and stuff like that, they're not really going to want to use our stuff. It's going to be more expensive for us. Okay, or they'll just get it from somewhere else. And this is one of the things that we need to realize, that we've got a lot of people in office right now that are passing poor policy. But we have to really pay attention. And it starts locally. It really does start locally, and you get involved in local politics, you understand what's going on the local level. And then that way you can get to see and feel for what's going on in politics, and then you go from there and you start listening to more stuff, and the more you listen, the more stuff starts to make sense. But what they feed you automatically is in the news and in the mainstream media, isn't it? It's not the truth. It ain't nothing but a lie. Okay, and they're selling you a false dream. So let me tell you this. Back to the currency and the inflation and stuff like that. Right now, we've got a lot of people on the left that are like, the government should do more, the government should spend more taxpayer money, but we're spending all on these illegal aliens. They've got this crazy border deal that they're talking about, which has absolutely nothing to do with the border. It's crazy. You guys should read it. There's like a 19-page summary of it. I read the whole thing. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I'll be on here for 2 episodes talking about that, but it's really bad. So they're saying, oh, people aren't voting for that, so they're bad. But you haven't read it. You don't know. You don't know how truly bad it is. Please go read it. Okay. It's got. I'll give you the last part that's in it. There's a survivability clause in the bill that says that if any of the bill is found to be unconstitutional, that the rest of the bill can still stand. So that means that their belief is that it's highly likely that some of that bill that they're proposing is unconstitutional, and they're expecting constitutional challenges to it. That's not something that you see in every bill. So why would they put it here? Clearly they're up to no good. Okay? And I could go into how the bill actually makes it okay for illegal aliens to work in U.S. Customs and the Border Patrol and stuff like that, but There's more. There's more. It gets rid of the polygraph test and all of this stuff, but there's more. There's more. It gives aid to Ukraine and Israel, which what the heck does either of those countries have to do with the American border? But again, there's more. There's more. And I could go on and on and on, but again, this is the way that they manipulate you and they make you think that one thing is one thing when one thing is not, and it's not serving you or the American people good at all. So you got to be careful there. You got to read it for yourself. We're coming up on an election this year for the President of the United States, and a lot of people are putting a lot of stock into that, and while that is important, we've got congressional races this year. Those are the people in the House of Representatives that really write the bills and pass the budget, okay, on the federal government. We got state elections coming up, which are your local state elections that you need to be aware of. State Assembly, State Senate, and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I, Marcus C. Williams, am running for State Assembly this year for New York State for 137th Assembly District, which covers the majority of the city and the whole town of Gates. So in the city, I cover everything south of Lexington all the way down, and on the north side, I'll be covering everything from East Main up to Norton. Okay, and I'm running. You ask me why am I running? Because, well, I care about my community. I care about my city. I care about our state, and I don't like the direction that we're going. And that's period, point blank. I don't like the direction that we're going. That's why I'm not just encouraging you guys to go get active and really start learning what's going on in the government. I'm actually doing it too, because it's so important that we practice our civic duty. We've got everything in our country is falling to the wayside. I mean, I got so much to say about it. I'm very passionate about it. We have to fight to preserve our nation. Like I said, our morals and values are being stripped away. Our currency is being devalued, so it's hard for you to purchase or buy anything. Soon you really will own nothing and they'll be happy. Won't be you that'll be happy, they'll be happy. And that's the biggest concern that I have. As everything starts to go to more and more subscription services, as everything starts to cost more and more, as people start to rent more and more versus owning their own houses, as people start to lease more and more instead of owning their own cars, this is a terrible direction that we are going, and we must turn and do an about face real quick as a nation, because it's very important that we get back to where we were, because where we are now and where we're going is not looking so positive. Drink water, you guys. But as I say that, I recognize and I understand that most people are so caught up in their day-to-day travails that they're not even able to think that far ahead. You know, a research thing came out recently. They said that 1 in 4 people don't. That's not right. It said 75% of people do not have $100 if they had an emergency. That's insane to me. They used to say the thing, it's 1 in 4 doesn't have $500, but now it's saying 75% don't have $100. That's insane. That's absolutely insane, and we have to understand that the direction that our country is going is not positive. We cannot look to the government to continue to provide additional aid and support and affordable housing and stuff like that. We have to get into the marketplace, and we have to start creating the actual benefit in our nation ourselves, because the government isn't good at doing too much of nothing but taking your money. Okay? They overspend, they overextend, and it always ends up somewhere that you don't want it. There's always some investigation going on, like there's an investigation going on right now here in the county. $5 million, or maybe it was $7 million, something like that, of missing money that was supposed to go to nonprofits, that was supposed to focus on the community. It just, poof, gone into the ether. Again, you gotta be aware of what's going on and who's in power and who's in charge, and who you need to hold accountable, and who you need to ask questions. And people, you got to ask questions. You got to ask more questions, so that way you know what's really going on. We as a nation, when we see something that's being perpetrated on the news or in the media, we have to start asking questions. We can't just go blindly into it. This is real stuff that's facing us and plaguing our nation right now. You know, I'd like to point out that as we move towards this election season, and as we have the state assembly and stuff open, the state assembly is the people that make the laws, but not only do they make the laws, they also control the budget, okay? The state senate, they control the budget. I mean, excuse me, they don't control the budget. They control bills and laws, and they also control appointments and nominations for different positions in the government, in the state government. Then you have the congressional seats that are being run this year. And those congressional seats are seats that control the budget for the federal government, and they control laws for the federal government. Okay? And then you've got some judges in there that are a mixture of, I think there are some states and areas that have some Supreme Court judges up this year, and there are some that have family court judges and stuff up this year. I know here we have some family court. I don't think we have any Supreme Court in my area right now this year, but I know we've got some family court. But you got to know who's on your ballot, what their positions are, and what their actual plan is for when they get into office, aside from just where they stand in general. Because many people go and they say, oh, well this, oh, well that, but there are no actual real solutions. Especially when you're on the state level, these people need to have solutions. And not just solutions that sound good, solutions that actually are going to be impactful. Because like I said about that $7 million that is missing on the county level, it sounded good, but now it's missing and it didn't do anything for nobody. So this is stuff that we need to think about, and it's stuff that we need to have open conversations about. But if we don't get back to the morals and the values and the traditions of our nation, our country is going to continue to go down in the tailspin. Continue to go down in the tailspin. Again, we've got all of this demonic stuff in our nation that's pervading our nation that people are just starting to be agreeable with. You can't be agreeable with Luciferianism and Satanism and all of this other demonic nonsense. They got shows on Amazon right now trying to make it like, oh, hell isn't that bad, and you can get out of hell and you can be reformed while you're in hell and stuff like that. That is bogus, man. Don't end up there. Don't end up in hell. Don't do that. Don't be vociferous or, oh, I wish I had my Bible with me right now. I'd really go through something with you guys. But don't do all of these negative things that are bad and stuff like that that are going to possibly end up condemning your eternal soul to damnation in hell. It's real. It's real. But like I said, Amazon is trying to say, oh, well, hell's not that bad. It's fun. You know, they got that show on there, that animated show. It's ridiculous. It's a mockery of Christianity again. So this is the stuff that we've got going on in our nation. And they try to make it like everything should be, what do they say? You should live your life of Riley, you know, whatever that means, which essentially means basically you just do whatever you want, when you want. And that's what we've got as a philosophy right now for many people in the youthful generations. This is what we've got coming up. Gen Alpha firmly thinks that. Gen Z, you got the millennials too, you know, and for me, that falls in one of those groups. I mean, it's bad, right? Like I look at the other people, like I'm looking for a wife, right? For instance. But we've got all of these terrible things in our culture right now that make it difficult for me to find a wife where I live, in the area that I live. I want to date for marriage, and I want somebody that's not more ran through than a racetrack. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a big problem. You know, the whole hookup culture is a terrible thing. Then you got everybody with all of these terrible other lifestyle choices and things like that, and it's like, well, how am I supposed to find a significant other with all of this going on? And then you look at the divorce numbers, and the divorce numbers are crazy. And one of the funny things I was reading the other day was the divorce numbers for lesbian couples, and it was like the divorces for lesbians are like 67% of all lesbians are getting divorced, or something like that. It might have been 72% or something there about that. But it's funny because the number is so high, right? And a lady made a joke about it. She was like, you know, that just goes to show you that maybe the women in some of these relationships are the actual problem and it's not the man. And I found that to be very humorous because, again, the culture doesn't allow us to talk about these things anymore because everything's been soft and pasteurized and made to be all light and fluffy. Instead of us being able to have the real conversations, which are some hard things about our culture, hard truths about our culture. Crime, gangsterism, all of that stuff is applauded. And it's made abundantly clear in music and media that that is something that is positive. You understand what I'm saying? That's not good. We've got salaciousism, lust, adultery, what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Where you flip-flop out of other people's beds into other people's beds. I don't know. The hookup culture. There's a word for it. It's escaping me at this time. But that, again, not good. Loose morals, loose values. Okay? Families are not cohesive anymore. You know, there's no fathers in many of these homes because the women can do it all themselves, or because many of the fathers were raised by women, so they've taken on all of these feminine traits and feminine characteristics. That's why you see so many men out there that are so emotional right now. And then they'll tell you, oh, it's okay for men to be emotional. No, it's not. It's not okay for men to be emotional. I said what I said. That is a female trait. You know, as like, not to quote Jay-Z, but Jay-Z in one of his songs, he said men shouldn't be jealous. That's a female trait. But the fact of the matter is that there are certain traits that tend to be more so for one type of a sex or gender, right? But now they're trying to tell you that a gender isn't a gender, a sex isn't a sex. And they try to make it like everything is different and everything is okay, but it's not, you know? And there's all types of chemicals that are making people's bodies change and stuff like that and affecting their hormone levels. So when you've got the outside impact of culture and you've got the internal impact of hormone issues, when you connect those together, that helps dissolve society. Because you don't have that basis of what is right and what is wrong, and the morals are not there at all. So everything's all washed together and made all pasteurized and nicey nice. And it's not. It's not good. You know, this is, you know, they'll say, oh, well, traditional gender roles and things like that are not good or whatever the case is, and a woman can do it just as much as a man can do it or whatever the case is, right? Well, men have the highest suicide rate. I mean, is that something that you want to be proud of? Men do the hardest, most dirtiest jobs and serious jobs and stuff like that. Is that what women want to do? No. We're not being real. We're not having real conversations. And that whole concept of a woman can do whatever a man can do and can do it better has really destroyed and broken up the home, right? Women are strong and they can do lots of stuff. They really can. And that's awesome. I love me some strong women. Don't get me twisted. I really do. But that's a whole separate conversation. I'm not talking about myself today. But I do love a strong woman. You know, I was raised around all strong women. But the fact of the matter is that daughters need their fathers, and boys need their fathers. It's very, very important. And the current culture that we have has pushed away from that. And that's not good at all. And we need to get back to that, because if we don't, then we've lost everything as a society. Society is going more and more and more in the wrong direction. But we don't want to talk about it because it might hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody might feel some type of way. It might insult somebody. Oh my goodness, perish the thought that somebody might be hurt by the reality of real things and not be told that everything is fantastic and everything is awesome. Perish the thought that somebody wouldn't pat you on the back and say, there, you too can be a bird even though you are a human girl? You explain these things to me. Our society has been so eroded and so corrupted that when we have real conversations, people don't even want to listen. They will break down, they will yell, and they will scream, and they won't be able to engage with you normally on a regular level-headed basis because they don't know how to communicate. And not only do they not know how to communicate, they don't know how to deal with a challenge to what they believe is true. Because largely, most people don't have anything to back up what they believe is true. And that is terrifying. They're not able to justify their own beliefs. I'm not saying that you got to be able to perfectly defend everything or anything like that, but you should be able to have a whole conversation without trying to scream somebody down or yell somebody down or get mad at them and flip their stuff over because you can't have a conversation with them about what something is that you believe in. To me, it's very, very concerning, and this is the way that our nation is going. But we need to talk about this. We really, very, very much so do. But if we continue to not talk about this, if we continue to let it go, we'll never be able to get to talk about the more serious thing, like how the government is bending us all over and is trying to take us all out. Government doesn't care about you. Government doesn't care about me. It doesn't care about your neighbors. It doesn't care about your enemies. The government cares about itself. The government is a tool of a means to an end, and that is for the government to make itself continue to survive eternally. And the people inside the government, largely, the people that are in power that you have seen have been there for decades, which is why we need term limits. But you see these people that have been there for decades, you think they care about you? Largely, most of them do not. Largely. And at the top of the pyramid where they really are, they all are related. They're all related. They all got the same bankers, the same cousins, go to the same schools and all of this. Okay, they're all socialites and they're in a club, they're part of a club and you ain't in it. That's why we, the people, have to come together and we have to set a more reasonable tone. They want us at each other's necks because of what you look like, what your skin color is, or what your religious belief is, or what your faith is, or because of who you sleep with, or whatever you do. And these are all serious conversations, right? Separately. But if it's dividing us so much that we're not able to talk about the fact that our government is destroying our nation and collapsing our society and forcing us to be at each other's throats, then we need to reassess exactly what our priorities are. This is the reason why they're stripping away American patriotism. This is the reason why they're flooding our country with illegal aliens, because they want to create a mercenary force that they can use against the American people, because they know that people that are in the military that are American citizens are less likely to fire on other American citizens. This is real, folks. This is a real thing. This is why they're trying to clear the way for many of them to be in law enforcement. Okay? This is real, folks. Okay? You gotta wake up and you gotta see what it is for the way that it really is. The government is slowly tightening the noose against us. It really, really, really is. And it's against all Americans. It's not something that's just against Republicans. It's not something that's just against Democrats. It's not something that's just against liberals. It's not something that's just against conservatives. It's against the totality of the American people, and that's why they want us at each other's throats, because they know if we were to unite together as proud Americans, we might flip over the table and tip over the pot of tea and pour it out. And they don't want the tea to be poured out. Okay? They know what time it is. You got to know what time it is. And you got to see that it's up to you to be a better person, to be a better individual, to stand up and actually be able to have civil discourse with others that might not share the same points of view as you, but also care about our country. Because without our country, we have nothing. Nobody wants to take us. They don't even want Americans in Mexico right now. They definitely don't want us in Canada. So we really need to understand what's going on. We only have one country. So no matter what your background is, no matter who you like to lay with, We need to come together and we need to push back against the things that the government is starting to do that's actually harming us as far as policy. And that goes to you getting active on a local level, going to your city council meetings, listening to what's happening, going to your county ledge meetings, listening to what's happening, seeing what's going on, understanding what they do there, understanding what they can control and what they're not able to control. So that way, when you see that there is an issue going on in your neighborhood, in your community, or in the country, you know who you need to address when it comes to those issues. Because if we're not taking an active role in government, we're going to continue to go down the wrong path. We're going to continue to go backwards. We're going to continue to lose our nation. And I promise you, when our nation is gone, there will be no peace. There will be no solace. There will be no America. And when there is no America, I promise you this, and you can hear this from my mouth to your ears. If America is to fall, there will be nowhere safe for you unless you are up in the high level of the elites. So it's us, the people, the working class, the everyday man and woman, the people in poverty, everybody in the middle class that needs to come together, and we need to work together to get civically engaged and push for the changes in local policy that we want to see, but unite on a larger scale to work to change federal policy to prevent the government from overreaching where we are. And it's not just federal policy, it's also state policy that is an issue. The state government has too much power. The state government should have less power. You should have more power. You deserve more power. You deserve more power as an American citizen. Not the state, not the federal government, you as the American citizen. It's crazy to me, and I'm gonna leave you with this. It's crazy to me that we've got these people out here that say that they care so much about the people in poverty and the working class and stuff like that, but you'll never once hear them say anything about actually getting rid of income tax. If they really cared about you people, they'd be screaming from the top of the tower, get rid of income tax so that you can keep more of the money that you own, that you created, that you earned in your pocket. You earned it, you deserve to keep it. There should be no federal or state income tax. You should be able to keep your money. But people claim that they actually care about the working class and those in poverty, and it is a complete story, I tell you. So here's what you do. If you're not sure how you can get involved, okay, start learning. Look it up online. Go to your city council. Go to your town council. Those are generally the local levels of government that are the smallest. Ask them questions. Get interested. And that's how you start to take action on that level. First, you have to learn, and then you can do. So that's the way to move the needle. But also remember, we have to be more civil in our dialogue with other people that have different points of view than us. That's how we get a greater understanding. That's how we unite our country together. That's how we stop the division that is hurting and harming our country. That's how we stop the hate that's pervading in our nation. And that's how we start to heal the wounds of our nation. We can save our country, but it's going to take us all coming together. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys for listening today on The Divide on WRFZ 106.3FM, Rochester Free Radio, with Marcus C. Williams. I encourage you guys, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter, on Facebook. You can find me, I'm on Instagram. You'll find me. Just search Marcus C. Williams. It won't be hard. I'll catch you guys later. And remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Be blessed and be well. I'll catch you later. See you guys next Monday. Same time, same station. I'll catch you then.
This is Mr. X, host of the Wolf Music Hour, Fridays at noon on Rochester Free Radio, 106.3 FM, WRFZ Rochester. The opinions of this program program.
Cup of Joe Radio. Who are we? Former military broadcasters on a mission to inform and entertain our communities, veterans, and their families who serve